Hello, this is Gihan Pereira. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to talk today about encouraging creativity, innovation, and change in your team, in your organization. I was thinking about this very recently because I had a conversation with a client of mine last week. He's a senior leader in an organization, so he's a leader of leaders, and this organization is going through, they're initiating a lot of change. So they're running a lot of innovation projects, change projects, and most of the people in the organization are on board with this. But he says we have a problem because we're launching these projects and everybody in my team's excited about it. They get their teams excited about their projects, and everything works really well for a few weeks. But then they hit some roadblocks or some obstacles, and if they're small enough, they'll go around them or jump over them. But when they come across something which is a little bit of a stumbling block and they can't figure out a way through it, then they give up. And it's not that these people are quitters, it's just that they get demotivated and they get disappointed and discouraged because these change projects, they're not exactly sure how to achieve the goals that we want because we're doing this for the first time. So it's hard to be motivated and say, well, we're 20% along the way because they don't know. Is it 20%? Is it 2%? Is it 80%? They don't exactly know what the path looks like. So it's easy to be discouraged. So what can we do about that? And I said, you're measuring the wrong thing. And social psychology backs this up. Let me tell you about my nephew, Riley. So he's a pretty good young cricketer. He wants to play cricket for Australia. In fact, right now, he's in England, in the English summer, playing for one of the county teams there, pursuing his dream and spending 5 months in England, playing there before he comes back and then plays cricket in the Australian summer. And a few years ago, Riley got some coaching. He was very lucky to get some coaching from an international cricket coach, Mickey Arthur, who was South African. He's now Australian, and he lived in Perth. So Riley's family was able to engage him for some coaching, and he coached Riley in his batting. And I took Riley to a coaching session with Mickey once, and I watched as Riley was standing at one end of the nets, hitting the ball, and Mickey was at the other end with the bowling machine just throwing down dozens, actually hundreds of balls at Riley and giving him feedback on every stroke. And now Mickey knew Riley's ambition of playing cricket for Australia, but he also knew that was a big ambition and the path there is not really clear when you're a young cricketer. So every time Mickey gave feedback, he didn't say, good shot, Riley, soon you'll be playing for Australia. Or, yeah, no, do this, you're not quite there, Riley, you're not quite ready to play for Australia yet. He would always give him feedback on that individual stroke. So he'd say things like, yeah, good shot, Riley. Or he'd say, oh, bend your knee, Riley, or head over the ball, Riley, or keep your head still, Riley. Things that Riley could act on in the moment. So he was being measured on the process, not the progress towards the outcome. And this is a secret. When you're talking about big projects where the path isn't clear, it's very difficult to keep people motivated if you're trying to measure the progress towards that outcome because there's this big gap and people can't visualize what that path, what the journey is going to look like. So instead of trying to measure how close you are to achieving your goal, measure process steps along the way. So what sort of things might you do with the change project? The sort of things you might measure are how many meetings did we have with customers this week? How many conversations have we had in our team? How much time have we spent on this project rather than being distracted and doing other work? How many outside opinions have we sought this week? How many other examples have we looked at that other businesses, other industries are doing that might be useful to us? How many pilot projects have we launched in the last month? Those are the things to measure. So you're not measuring how close you are to the goal, you're measuring the steps that you're taking in the process. And this is useful for two reasons. One is it motivates people because now your KPIs are not about how close you are to this nebulous goal, which is very difficult to measure, but your KPIs, your measurements are around how many of these, is counting these things. Now, the other benefit of doing it that way is that as you make progress, so for example, the more conversations you have with customers, the more ideas you bring in from outside, the more time you spend on this, the better you become at being able to understand what the rest of that journey is going to look like. And then as you get closer to the goal and as you understand the path better, then you can start measuring your progress towards your outcome. But when you're getting started, measure the process, not progress towards the outcome. Process before outcome, especially when you're doing these ambitious projects where you don't exactly know what the path is going to look like. Now, I've got a worksheet here that you can download where I'll give you some ideas of some measurements that you can use when you're working with these kind of projects. So not all of them will apply to every project, but have a look at them, discuss them with your team, and identify the things that you're going to measure when you're talking about change and innovation, and the process measurements that you're going to put into place to finally get towards that outcome. I hope you find that useful. I'll see you in the future.